Reaperman here, and today I've got the old TurboGrafx hooked up again to play Galaga 90. This is my absolute favorite shmup on a very shmup-heavy system. Now, it wouldn't be a TurboGrafx video without my buddy Kanye hanging out down there in the corner. I try and do these on my own, but he just insists on coming along. It's actually kind of weird. So Kanye is well known to love this system for some reason, and it's odd to know of a celebrity that has a love of kind of an oddball system, and it's a very oddball system, actually. We all knew about it back in the day, but I never actually knew anybody that had one of these back in the early 90s, I guess. So most of the people I knew fell into one of two camps. They would either have bought the Sega Genesis, which came out slightly earlier here in America, and it was a lot more powerful, or they were basically still playing their regular Nintendo and waiting for the Super Nintendo to come out. I, of course, had my Atari 800, and I was still waiting to get my NES, but that's a different story. So this is Galaga 90. It's also known as Galaga 88 in Japan because it came out a lot earlier there. Basically, this is just an update to the old Galaga formula. It adds a few. It adds branching paths, which is a feature that I try and avoid because my odds of dying go way up. It's also got an extra tier of power-up. If you know about Galaga, you know there's this really convoluted power-up system. It's also very rewarding. It's the risk-reward in just the power-up system is fantastic. It really makes this. There's also some levels with scrolling backgrounds now, and that's new to Galaga. And there's a lot more enemies, including bosses. So let's get started here. Get the run button going. Right off the bat, they give you a choice. Do you want to be a single ship with 2 in reserve, or a double ship with 1 left? You want to pick this one, always. Okay, so as we take off here with our double ship, we actually want to get it captured in one of the first few runs here. So we're going to start off Galaga like Galaga always starts, with the enemies piling in. We want to take out a fair number of them. This is actually not good for building score, but it ups our chance of living. And we want to keep that row of now yellow guys intact because they can kidnap us. And this is something that we want. They're going to kidnap me? No. So there's 2 different paths they can run. And that's the one that we want to get ourselves captured. Now, there's a lot of ways this can go wrong. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but hopefully, yep, we can do this. And now we're the most powerful that you can get in this game, which is pretty cool, and hopefully we'll have a decent run at it here. But like I was saying, letting these guys actually get to the top of the screen and form up is very good for score. You get a lot more points when they're coming down at you. And there's one of those little blue space nuts. I think they're called warp cores or something. If you accidentally get 2 of those before you get to this here galactic dancing level, you're screwed. It bumps you up to the higher tier of the branching path system. So I really like the musical interludes in these games, the dancing. Kanye does too, being a musician at heart, or whatever he is. So as you can see, Kanye's joined us in his full-on South Park garb. He's actually dressed that way because he's a gay fish, of course. And he's a gay fish because he likes eating fish sticks. Ha ha ha. So in addition to the merged enemies dropping those little warp nuts, you can actually get them out of pieces of the scenery that blow up during these levels. Little asteroids or ice things. Boom. So you actually have to have two of them to do the warp, so I don't have to dodge these as hard as I am. But I do want to really drop my chances of getting up to the harder level, because we're actually getting kind of close to the first of the scrolly levels, and they're actually quite the ordeal if you're up at the higher tier. So as you can see, the enemies are now shooting more projectiles as they form up, which makes them much more dangerous. This is how I lose most of my lives, I would say. And they've also started kind of kamikazeing during the intro run. They have a couple that sometimes head down towards your ship. And now we're back to dancing. So if you're wondering about my setup here, what I have is my stock TurboGrafx 16, stock in every way, but it's hooked up to something called a Tennokoe 2, which was originally a saving device for Japanese PC engines, but mine's been modified to also output RGB. And the RGB is being consumed by the Framemeister, upscaled to 1080p, and recorded by my Avermedia Live Gamer Portable 2. And I really have to say the TurboGrafx has excellent clear RGB. Okay, so this is the first of the scrolly levels. Basically, we have to do 2 waves of this and in here, and then there's a boss. So we'll just fly around for a while. Now, this isn't a fully modern kind of scrolly shmup. They're just scrolling the background. I guess they always just scroll the background, but there's no up and down movement like you would be tempted to try out. Alright, first wave. The waves here are considerably easier on the basic tier. Boom. Now, most of my time spent playing this game is actually not on the TurboGrafx 16, but on the Turbo Express. It's a really nice handheld experience because there's not a lot of text to read, and there's a lot of really good contrast in the image. So it actually portabilizes very well. Now, of course, as a kid, I'd heard of the TurboGrafx 16, but I didn't really want one. I actually wanted the Turbo Express far more. And that's because I was under the mistaken assumption that the thing was the size of a Game Boy. Because a lot of the advertising media used people with especially large hands, and it had kind of the same form factor as a Game Boy, and there weren't any demo units at any of the stores I went to. Like, there wasn't one out that I could see. So I thought this thing was the size of a Game Boy, and with graphics that looked like this, so of course I was super interested. But then I got one, of course, like 15, 20 years later, whatever it was, I got one of these things. And the thing's freaking huge, so that will not leave the house. But right now, the enemies have gotten just plain mean in their form-ups. They've started suiciding me almost every time. And I just lost 2 of my power-ups. This is not going to go well here. Oh. Whew. Okay, let's see if we can get ourselves kidnapped a bit. Because we do have that 1 ship in reserve, the 2 ships in reserve. Oh no, I've been kidnapped. That totally sucks. I really dig the whole risk-reward on the power-up scheme. Ooh. Oh, gotta dodge that one. Ooh. So I am using Turbo on my Turbo controller here. This is the one system that I don't feel it's cheating on, and that's because every single TurboGrafx controller has variable turbo fire on it. So the games were kind of designed from the start to take advantage of that. It also helps prevent wear on the controllers, which is important because the controllers are hard to get a hold of now. I'm actually using the standard TurboPad. The only other controller I have for this system is this kind of awful arcade stick that they came out with. It was their equivalent of the NES Advantage, I guess. It's about the same grade. It's basically a gamepad with a stick. Not a big fan of that thing. It's especially useless in shmups, which is a shame because that's really kind of what the system's good at. Oh geez, I have to concentrate a little harder here. Apparently now I have space mines to blow up. And the background of this actually looks like the remnants from Bosconian, which is another Namco game. One that I didn't play until very recently, but actually have grown to quite enjoy. I've got a couple of videos on different versions of it. I'll link at least one of them. Yeah, those are Bosconian stations. This has gotten to be quite some hard shmup here. So I don't think this is Kanye's favorite shmup, actually. I think he mentioned as being Blazing Lasers, which was an early shmup on the system. I think there was a couple of sequels to that one that were pretty good. Anyway, I think that's enough of a quick look here at Galaga 90 in America or Galaga 88 in Japan, if you got it back when the game was supposed to come out. And man, these graphics would have been just insane back in 1988. In 1990, they were still amazing.